Hello and welcome. This is the France 24 debate. What's private is private. French President François Hollande at his regularly scheduled New Year's press conference when asked, amid speculation over an affair, if the unmarried president's partner, Valérie Trierweiler, was still the First Lady. Trierweiler, under duress, who's prolonged her stay in a Paris hospital. Hollande did promise he'd clear the air before a February 11th state visit to Washington. This at a press conference where it almost went unnoticed that the beleaguered socialist leader, whose popularity has hit rock bottom, has signaled what some say could mean a major change of direction. Gone are the tax the rich campaign promises. Instead, a plan to slash spending and cut payroll taxes in a bid to get bosses to hire. Will the message, though, get lost in the feeding frenzy over Hollande's personal life? Today, in the France 24 debate, Hollande Faces the Press. With us to talk about it, French Socialist Member of Parliament Valérie Trierweiler, Vice Chair of the French National Assembly's Finance Committee. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome as well to Public Relations Consultant and blogger Minton Dial. Thank you for being with us. Bastien Lecoz, co-founder of the, I guess we call it the Young Business Owners Advocacy Group, Les Moineaux, the Sparrows. Welcome back to the show. And pollster Raphaël Leclerc, co-founder of, I had real trouble with this, Délit d'Opinion. How do you translate that?
That's it. It's free speech and debate, mostly.
Free speech and debate. You bring together people from several different polling agencies as well as political actors. And
yeah, that's it, exactly.
Okay, with us all to talk about it as well are you on the France 24 debate Facebook page and on Twitter, where our hashtag is F24debate. So there was, as is the case in these press conferences, a linear statement, some 35 minutes by the French president. This all coming 5 days after a gossip magazine showed pictures on its front page of the French president wearing a motorcycle helmet en route to see actress Julie Gaillet. Hollande, who was asked the very first question if Valérie Trierweiler, his unmarried partner, is still the First Lady of France.
Each individual in his or her private life goes through difficult periods, and this is the case at the moment. We are going through painful moments. But I abide by one principle: that private business should be handled privately. We must be respectful. So this is not the time or the place to do so.
All right, not the right time. But of course, Valérie Trierweiler, this is all going to come up again since he's going to address it before he goes to Washington.
For sure, before 11th of February, for sure. What has been said, there are two things, actually. The first one is that private is private, and this is crucial for France. This is a basic principle for France. It has always been the case in the past, and this is as part of French spirit, I would say, that private life is private life. Now, we have, as it exists in the United States, what we call First Lady. First Lady, the word does not exist in French. This has been imported from the United States. And what probably we need is to clarify the status of what is a First Lady in the French Republic. It has no status today.
It has no status, but she does have a staff paid for by taxpayers.
She has a staff paid by taxpayers, but there is no status. So this is why I think we need to clarify, to define exactly what could be or should be the First Lady. Just to mention that François Hollande, as President of la République, has made huge efforts for transparency. We have discussed it a couple of months ago with transparency about revenues, etc. He has decreased his own salary. And this, I think the next step would be to clarify what could be the First Lady status.
All right. Of course, he said during that press conference that he's not going to legislate piecemeal according to his personal needs. This, of course, a dig at his predecessor.
Of course.
So we won't expect something like that in the near future. One of the reporters did ask him, though, this is the man who's got the codes to the nuclear bomb, just even for safety reasons, is it really a private affair?
It is. We need to have a clear frontier between private life and the duties, as part of the public duties, and like the weapon, as you mentioned, nuclear weapon. But
do you sign off on those when you decide to run for president? It's one thing to be an MP, of course, but to be the president of France, you don't. I mean, you don't have the codes to the nuclear bomb.
I don't, for sure. Yes, but we need to find a way to protect, on one hand, the private life, and on the other hand, what could be the status. We need to be clear on that. Once again, 15 years ago, there was no word for First Lady in France. This was in the United States, Michelle Obama, Jackie Kennedy, etc. But it was not the case in France. And now we said we will have a First Lady. It has started with Carla Bruni, I think, Sarkozy.
All right, already a comment for us from Facebook. Only in France and dictatorships can a president hide behind censorship to keep personal life secret. You forfeit that right, Hollande! Exclamation point. Minister Dial, how do you think François Hollande did today? Did he do the right thing by saying, look, I'll talk about it later?
Well, I think he was in a lose-lose position. There's not much he could do. He could try to avoid the topic. In this case, what I think he did is he kept on digging a hole, I would say. He postponed the issue. He didn't hit it front on. And I take issue with the issue of keeping it private. This is the role of a president in a political situation. And in the end of the day, if you want to inspire leadership, inspire engagement, well, in the end of the day, you have to bring your whole body into the whole story. And I don't mean this in a corporal sense, but I mean your left brain, your right brain. You can't just sort of segment and keep business in one side and the rest of who I am. Trust comes from a whole figure, not just my performance, not just from rational arguments and what I say, but what I do as well.
You agree with that, Raphaël Leclerc?
I think from a domestic point of view, François Hollande had a major risk. It was to discuss only about private issue. And I think the idea to answer first about this private life question and then move on the economic issue was, I think, the best move he could do at that time.
Because if he'd agreed to play that game, then there wouldn't have been any questions at all on the economy, is what you're saying.
Yeah, of course, that's what I say. So I think by doing it, he had a lot of pressure before this press conference. It's the third one. He postponed it last November, so he prepared it for a lot of days. And I think by saying this first, he had 20 minutes, 25 minutes to discuss about the economy. And then, of course, he had to answer about his private life and private life questions. So I think he did what he could, and, well, the man did the job, I think.
Bastien Lecode?
I think it's scandalous what we hear in France this last day. I do not agree at all with what we hear in the French press. If it's in the cover of public, it's because people care about this. People care for two reasons. Because we're like the English, for thousands outside of waiting for the kid of Kate and Harry. And people in France want the same thing. They want to know about this tough story. This is the first thing, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that Hollande is cheating on his girlfriend, and no one says anything about that. I think it's scandalous. So if you want to give this image of that's the rule, so no more family, it's all right, anyone can do anything, that's the main issue. Of course, we don't care who's the first lady, but he's cheating on someone. And this is, I think, the problem.
Well, maybe to add one comment, I think if we look at the polls, what the polls say, when you ask the French public opinion, people say, truly, we don't care if this president...
They say they don't care, but that magazine sold out within minutes when it hit the stands.
Of course, but I think...
And François Hollande's popularity has risen in the polls. How do you explain that?
Because I think the image, it's quite paradoxical, but the image of a French lover is something, even if it's cheating, I think it's something that brings François Hollande something or credit about his personal life, or I don't know. And I think people are interested in this people news, but they don't link it to his political action. So according to public opinion, it's not relevant.
Dominique Strauss-Kahn could have done 99% at the election in that case.
What is amazing is the discrepancy between what is said in international newspapers and what is said in French one. an international newspaper so far, from what I read a couple of days ago, it's how French people will treat this affair. Not about the affair itself, but how are they going to handle with this affair? This is question mark. Is there going to be an evolution, or do we say it's private life, end of story?
There's a comment here from Cord saying, getting more and more convinced Hollande was the source of the affair. Now his press conference gets global coverage. Valérie Trierweiler, how do you feel about seeing Julie Gaillet's picture splashed across the front page of the Financial Times on Saturday?
Yes, I've seen it. But it's okay. There was the picture in the Financial Times, but what was in the article?
I mean, it's not a gossip magazine, so why are they putting it on their front page?
It's how French people are going to handle with this affair. It was more question mark, I think, for my perception. Even in the German newspapers.
Minter Dao, do you think that François Hollande could handle this right, and this could help, could give him momentum in some way? Seeing as we said, he's had this little bump in the polls. Granted, he's starting from low, what, 26%, something like that.
Well, maybe one could argue that's how he got elected, because he's already been doing that kind of thing before. So this is just a continuation of his style of managing his private life. So I would say it's just a continuation of his style of engagement with his conjoints, as we say, his wives or girlfriends.
But if I may, when there was some affair with Clinton a couple of years ago, it was the same type of articles. So there is no specificity for French president.
No specificity for a French president?
In the newspaper, in international newspapers, you mentioned this article in the Financial Times. It was the same kind of article or story a couple of years ago when Clinton had the affair with Monica Lewinsky.
Bastien Lecoz, at the press conference, Hollande saying that in France we cherish privacy, we have free speech in this country, but privacy is something that we cherish, and it sets us apart. Implicitly, he didn't say it, but he meant sets us apart from Anglo-Saxon countries. Is that a self-serving statement, or is that something that a lot of French people believe?
What is really strange is that you said at the beginning, he's working for the transparency. So he wants the transparency in the revenues and many things. Oh, he has this. This guy has a boat. This guy has this. And well, it's my private life, so I'll do whatever I want. No, I think that
it's different. Transparency is just to prove that people do not get rich from public money. This is different.
That's his element. That's his version of transparency.
Yeah, I guess so.
This is the right version.
Also, he could have broke up with Trierweiler and started another relationship. No one would have said anything. Like for Sarkozy, he did the things in the right way. So that's maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too conservative. I don't know. But I'm happy to have this point of view on that point. But I think that he thinks his way and not the way that French people think.
Well,
Let's speak to one person who is in the room. France 24 politics editor Mark Perlman joins us now. Mark, at that press conference, as we were saying at the outset, François Hollande saying that this matter is going to be brought up again. Coming out of the hall, how do you get the sense, speaking to your colleagues and watching his performance, how did he do? How did François Hollande do?
Well, he did as much as he could under the conditions. He certainly did not expect journalists to ask him again and again, various angles, but about this issue 5 or 6 times throughout the press conference. He certainly expected the first question was asked by the president of the Presidential Press Association, and it was probably planned in a way to try to get it out of the way. However, this did not happen. Some colleagues, including from the international press, asked him about it, but as the conference drew, he became more and more testy on the issue. His answers were more and more aggressive on this issue. He said, "I'm not going to answer. The First Lady is resting. This is about privacy. This is about private life," and so on. Clearly, the most interesting answer was the first one, when he did say they were going through difficult times. For those of us who remember, Nicolas Sarkozy also said his couple was going through a difficult time shortly before they divorced. And so certainly we're going to watch very carefully what the president is going to say. He said he would give an answer in a month's time, because in a month's time he's supposed to visit the United States on a very official visit. And the question is, will he still be with the First Lady, or will there be a change in his situation? He said he would address the issue because he realizes that even though this is France, even though personally he doesn't like to talk about private things, he will have to address the issue eventually.
I was going to say, Mark, you've now reported on both what we've seen, the first sitting president of the Fifth Republic to divorce, then remarry while in office. That was Sarkozy. And now the first unmarried president in office. Is it the same sort of unprecedented mood?
Well, it's different because Nicolas Sarkozy decided at some point in his career that his private life was an asset, that he would use it to showcase his family. And eventually this turned in a way against him when he was going through a difficult time during the 2007 presidential campaign and even the election. And he divorced quickly after, and then he remarried with model singer Carla Bruni. And so this became a kind of romance. François Hollande certainly does not like this private life to be splashed in the cover of magazines, of course, but even discussed. He's always been very private when he separated with his former companion Ségolène Royal, and now all this allegations about having an affair with this actress. He doesn't like it, but obviously he cannot fight it. Let's not forget that in between there was the Dominique Strauss-Kahn scandal that eventually certainly marked the beginning of a new era about the way this is being covered in France and by the French media. Basically a media frenzy, and the traditional rules about separating private life and public life basically exploded, and this is still going on. And the fact that a French president during this very formal press conference has to answer 5 or 6 questions about his private life certainly shows that this is a new era.
All right, and Mark Perman there reporting from the presidential palace. We'll pick up on this point, and I promise we will talk about his economic message when we get back. You're watching the France 24 debate.
Down to earth.
This week we're down to earth in Uganda on a morning hunt for snares scattered inside this, the country's largest tropical rainforest. The wire traps are the #1 danger for the hundreds of chimpanzees living here in Budongo. Today these men are protecting the animals, but not too long ago they were notorious poachers who hunted this forest themselves.
Down to earth on France 24 and France24.com. Down to Earth, brought to you by the African Development Bank.